This is the Fantasy Football Game Plan, where we talk about fantasy football and the NFL.
Okay, well, let's take a look at the AFC East. And our usual format is we kind of go worst to first based on what we think's going to happen this year. So who do you pick to lose the AFC East this year?
Jets.
Yeah. Jets. Same as every year, right? Yeah, I agree. They've got a second-year QB, Zach Wilson. He had an up and down year last year, showed some potential. I sure wouldn't trust him as my QB1. Would you trust him as your QB2?
Depends if Elijah Moore was catching 98% of the passes. I don't know. No.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he'd be like my third string quarterback. He'll be a guy that we'll be talking about on waivers this year, play him this week or that week. I think nobody really trusts this QB at this point. They drafted a big time running back in Breece Hall, who's getting a lot of attention in drafts right now. People are picking him as their favorite to start for this team. He's got competition. He had Michael Carter last year, was a good running back. He was a rookie last year.
Mm-hmm.
I guess they didn't see enough from Michael Carter. They felt like this Breece Hall guy was better. So do you like either of these guys?
Got to start with week one, I guess. That's pretty much how I'm looking at the Jets lineup.
Yeah.
If someone picks either the two running backs deep in the draft or whatever, they can have them. I'm not gonna. It's all strategy when it comes to picking, and maybe these guys are going to be in the waiver wire. They still have Tavon Coleman to round up a solid backfield too. So,
do they though?
What happens this season, right?
Is he still even there? I think he's just going to be buried in the back. If he's still on the team, I'll be surprised. And I just think he's just going to be buried because he's an old guy and he's always hurt, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. The Jets, to me, it's going to be a waiver wire pick. I don't think I'll be using any high draft picks on any of the running back core for this team. That's for sure.
Yeah. So, do they have a bona fide star on this team on offense for fantasy?
Well, I mentioned Elijah Moore was a great receiver for them, and Corey Davis was supposed to be another standout performer. But if you're don't know who's throwing you the ball and trusting Zach Wilson, then I don't really know where this team goes.
Yeah, I think Moore and Davis are good receivers. I just, there's injuries were at play for Corey Davis last year. More competition for the ball now because they drafted a really high draft pick, Garrett Wilson, which a lot of people think is the best receiver coming out of the draft this year. A guy to keep your eyes open for. If Zach Wilson figures out how to play quarterback, then Garrett Wilson could be a star in the future, I guess. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
And then got TJ Uzama for a tight end.
Maybe he's just one of those guys that you pick up and you leave on the bench and he gets some touchdowns for you later in the bye weeks after week 5.
Yeah. Okay, so we're not real high on the Jets. Should we move on?
Yep.
All right. So the next worst team in this division is really hard to figure out. I'm going with the Dolphins for now, but they've done a lot in the offseason, and I think their team will be improved. The only thing is, they had a winning record, but they have a new coach now. It's kind of murky because they've got so many weapons here. Who are they going to give the ball to?
Okay, so who's the quarterback?
Tua Tagovailoa.
He's a little bit up and down, he needs to come out with a breakout season this year or something because he has a lot of opportunity to do really well. This team is kind of stacked a little bit when it comes into each skilled position.
Yeah, I'm looking at the running backs and it's a real mess. It's full of talented guys that have never really lived up to their potential. They've got Raheem Mostert, they've got Chase Edmonds, they've got Salvin Ahmad, and they've got Myles Gaskin. all those guys have flashed and are all often injured. And Chase Edmonds is much traveled. So who's going to be the starter? I guess Chase Edmonds would be your best bet at this point, but I'm not going to spend a lot of draft capital on him. All the money for this team is going to go to those two receivers, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. Those are going to be the guys that everybody's going to try to get.
Those two guys are studs, and it's going to be very interesting in how they use them to their advantage, because breakout speed on both sides there. So very exciting team. Hopefully they have good weather.
Both those guys are good to hand the ball off to also. So if you really can't trust the running backs, I think, in Miami, because a lot of their carries are going to go to one of these two receivers.
Yeah.
And the tight end is Gesicki, who I love, but they don't give him the ball enough. And now he's got all this competition for the ball. So I still think he won't get the ball enough.
He's a pretty solid tight end though for the last couple of years. So get him cheap. He's up there in that third class probably of tight ends. Good for a waiver wire pick, especially if Miami's playing like the Jets or something like that, playing a divisional game. You never know. He catches the ball. It all goes about chemistry, right?
Something to see if they can unseat the Patriots from a playoff spot or finish ahead of the Patriots. They always drive the Patriots nuts. The Patriots don't have superstar fantasy football players either. I was looking at the list. I mean, their QB's Mac Jones. He's okay. He'll be a waiver wire guy probably a lot of the times this season when we're talking about waivers. I can't have him as my starting QB for fantasy, right?
Right.
Remember
last year in Pittsburgh, he threw for like 15 yards. So it's all about how they're going to play him. You just got to follow the system in the Patriots, right? So
yeah, I mean, I know
the coaching staff says we're not throwing the ball. We've seen it happen where he didn't throw the ball.
Yeah, they beat Buffalo by running the ball every play.
Yeah. So it's it's all about strategy and who you have on the field. And I don't know. I don't think I'm going to trust somebody that should be giving me 20 points every week to have a 1 week off where he gets 5. If someone gets injured and has that much, that's understandable. But if someone's schemed to do that, then it's not a valuable choice. There's better people to go after than Mac Jones.
Do you want one of these running backs from the Patriots? Do you want Rhamondre Stevenson or Damian Harris?
For sure. I'll definitely take them as a 3-4 back, maybe even a 2 back. These two running backs are quality running backs that just don't know who gets the ball each week, right? So that's always been the trouble with the Patriots, is that there's no consistency from week over week. It's hard to scheme against them as a coach.
Right.
But they're going to run 20 times a game. Who's it going to? I don't know. So maybe you're lucky. Maybe you get someone that gets a touchdown.
Yeah, Patriot games. You just don't know who's going to start. So no. I mean, sometimes it's referred to as Bellatrix, which is a good one. But yeah, I mean, and the thing about the running backs in New England is you get one fumble. You fumble it once, you're on the bench. So doesn't matter. Second play of the game, you fumble, you're done. Take a seat, buddy. Who's the next man up? And he'll start until he fumbles. And then two good tight ends. Which one do you want?
Probably Geno Smith. I would take over Hunter.
You like Jonnu Smith over Hunter Henry?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
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 I mean, it's a toss-up. They're both good. I think it's the same thing you were just talking about. It's just how they use them.
Exactly. And maybe, they're coming back with the same team that they had last year, more so. So I bet you a lot of things that didn't come out of the woodwork last year are going to come out this year.
Mm.
Right? And let's see what happens with these two guys, because they picked up 2. Maybe Mac Jones is just practicing short games, tosses, or just up the seam. Who knows, right? So, it's going to be. I guess it's a toss up to see who gets it. They're good.
Yeah.
They're good. they're good. That's all I gotta say. They're good.
Yeah. Their receivers are kind of the same deal. Like the Jacoby Myers, Kendrick Bourne, Devontae Parker, they're all good players. They're not superstars. I think the thing in New England is just like they want to be able to have their opponent not know what they're going to do and not be able to key on any one guy. And then they rely on scheme and sort of just good enough play to execute. And hopefully their defense holds them in the game. But it's really boring for fantasy.
Well, their coach isn't playing for fantasy. He's not playing for titles of accolades of how many passing yards he can get in a week or top offensive player. He's getting a W so he can get a bye week in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, that's been history. I kind of feel like Belichick now is trying to get enough wins each year to keep his job and then eventually break Don Shula's record for most victories, and then he'll retire. Okay, so the team that everyone likes from this division is the Bills. They have a bona fide superstar quarterback that a lot of people are going to pay a lot of money for in auction leagues. Josh Allen. You love Josh Allen, right?
Oh yeah, he's a beast. But he's also one of the top guys off of a ladder as well too. You know, he may be low end second round, or he may be high end third round, because obviously you're going for running backs in the first 2 rounds in keeper leagues. So yeah, he's a great guy, like great on his legs, great arm, great play altogether. So pick him up. He's your number one.
Yeah, I figure in my auction league he'll go for about $28 out of 100 virtual dollars. He'll take up like more than a quarter of your budget if you want him.
Probably, yeah. Well, that doesn't give you much. Hopefully you're keeping some other players.
Yeah. Well, Singletary, I think they've been trying to unseat him, with bringing in Zach Moss and things like that, but they've got Dalvin Cook's younger brother, James Cook. Now they drafted him and, to be their running back. And I think by the end of the year, he'll be the starter there.
I have no trust in Singletary as a running back, and also for the Buffalo Bills offense as a running back. They don't like him. Week after week, they don't like him. So, maybe if Cook is an outstanding guy, he might get 10 or 14 touches. They're not a run team. At least right now with their offensive coordinator, right? They're not doing like Ken Dorsey, whatever his name is. He's not running. He doesn't run the ball. Maybe they run the ball in the 5-yard line or something like that. But it's a passing offense, and they have too many wide receivers. So then you get this crowded not even a crowded wide receiver room, just so many options wide receiver room. Right? Like it's pretty crazy. So I would stick I don't know. I've just never liked Devin Singletary. I would stretch it and lay around and pick up James Cook and see what he does. And Moss would just be a waiver for me. Same thing with Singletary.
Yeah. Well, Dabble was their OC, and he's now the head coach of the Giants. And I have to admit, I don't know who the new OC is, but I know that what you're saying is right. When they get down by the goal line, it seems like it's either Josh Allen running it in himself, or he'll throw it to Dawson Knox.
Yeah, which is someone who should be a high tight end pick.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about him all last year. He was sitting in the waiver wire for up to 8 to 10 weeks, I think, in my league or something like that, before someone picked him up. And I think Dawson Knox should go up pretty high, or you should get him for a pretty reasonable price if you can grab him.
Yeah, solid player.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then let's get a little bit more into the receivers. So we all know about Stefon Diggs, and he's a great player, Stefon Diggs. But last year, especially in the playoffs, Gabriel Davis went insane in that playoff game against the Chiefs that the Bills should have won. Who do you think's going to be the main target between those two guys, between Diggs and Davis next year? Or do you think that they're both sort of draftable number 1, number 2 receivers?
Yeah, definitely. Great receivers, grab them. There's also James Crowder too, old Washington Redskin, coming from the Jets too. He's also on there as well too. So right there you have great options. I don't know what to say, how to pick these players. If it's Stephon Diggs going in the first round on a snake ladder, or Gabriel going a little bit later. Maybe Gabriel's just a sleeper, right? Because everyone will be double teaming Diggs, and then this guy's going to be open like Jefferson on Minnesota, just lighting it up. Because you have to focus on one or two things, and then if you had Knox as your tight end, that's what I'm saying. All these receivers that they have all have been proven quarterback friendly wide receivers in the past, or what they've been doing, and it's a great team to watch. It's very exciting. This is where you want to go for your 1-2 combo. You have Josh Allen pick up either one of these wide receivers,
or Dawson Knox.
Yeah,
I agree with you. That's a great stack.
Yeah,
and I mean, Bills, I think, are a lot of people's favorite to just win the whole thing this year. They're a Super Bowl favorite.
The Mafia breaking tables.
Yeah, they'll go nuts if they win for sure.
You know what's so crazy about Buffalo is that they get those winter storms, like the lake snow effect.
Yeah.
That sometimes their stadium is literally buried underneath 50 feet of snow. They gotta get the fans out there to shovel the bleachers sometime, because they can do the field, but they can't get all the bleachers, right? So you're in nosebleed.
Oh my God. Yeah, it looks cold.
But yeah, they have also relocated some home games because of snowfall and their open stadium. So yeah, good on Buffalo. I love watching their fans. I think they're absolutely just ridiculous. And good on them, and good on Buffalo getting a solid team. I'm really, really looking forward to the running back, as you mentioned, James Cook. I think he's that people should grab if they haven't had a thought about that yet.
Yeah, I agree. He's a good get. Hopefully you don't have to pay too much for him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, we'll wrap up this episode talking about the would-be Super Bowl champs, maybe. And next time we're going to do the AFC West. So that'll be fun to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Cool. All right.
We'll talk soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks for watching the Fantasy Football Game Plan podcast. Need coaching on your lineup? Drop us a line and we'll discuss your dilemma.